What is going on, everybody? So, I hope you're having a good week so far. It's been a long week. I don't know if it was just me, but recently I gave away my Steam Deck. Now, giving away my Steam Deck was a big deal, but initially there were some problems I thought new Steam Deck owners would have. So I initialized the Steam Deck and I pre-programmed a lot of applications into it to make the experience more accessible, because I know the Steam Deck is a little hard to understand when you're starting out. But after giving away my Steam Deck to a family member, there were certain problems that they were having with it. And they actually recently told me that they stopped playing their Steam Deck and just went to their Windows desktop to play most of their games. And it was mostly because the Steam Deck just couldn't play everything they wanted. So the consensus and aftermath of giving away my Steam Deck is that after about a month, they just stopped playing it. And this is coming from a person who spent $3,000 or more building their desktop computer. And most people, when they play their Steam Deck, they go and switch from their desktop computer to the Steam Deck. But at first, they were kind of obsessed with it. And they told me they couldn't stop searching information on the Steam Deck. But the more they started to play and experience the Steam Deck, the more they started to realize how limited they actually were. And of course, everybody does know that it is true. Windows can play a lot more games than SteamOS can. And so I try to give them the breakdown and show them exactly how EmuDeck works and how to get specific launchers to play specific games. Now, before I gave them the Steam Deck, I set up EmuDeck to play all of the hundreds of emulated titles on their Steam Deck. I actually pre-programmed a lot of games to be playable on there. But EmuDeck, for some reason, still doesn't direct certain titles to the right cores to play the game. So a lot of the games like Kingdom Hearts and certain Nintendo 64 titles just didn't want to play for some reason on EmuDeck. So even though a lot of people say EmuDeck is easy to use, it's not really easy to fix. You can set up EmuDeck, but most of the time there are going to be some issues with game compatibility or core directories. And so I try to give them the breakdown exactly how to fix those core directories. And it was kind of a 30-minute conversation by mistake. I was trying to shorten and simplify the process, but they still didn't really understand, and I doubt they're going to go back to their Steam Deck after telling them all of that. It's just really hard to give a casual gamer the Steam Deck, especially if they're used to using Windows. Most people know how to use Windows, so if you give them a Windows handheld, they're going to know exactly how to go from point A to point B. But SteamOS and Linux is a whole different story. In fact, it's something you have to relearn. You have to actually relearn using an entire PC, and most people are not going to want to do that. So they try to play League of Legends, and I had to tell them exactly where to go to get the Heroic launcher, to install and log into their Epic Game Store account, and they just didn't want to do that. They stay at home and play their desktop computer anyway, so they figure, why would I play a Steam Deck? This family member is, of course, younger than I am, but they still know Windows. And that's really the main reason why I gave away the Steam Deck. A lot of people say it's simple, but it's really not. There are so many things that hinder you from playing your favorite titles. And I really don't care what I have to do to play my favorite titles, as long as I can play them in the end. With the Steam Deck, sometimes you just hit a brick wall, even when it comes to simple titles like Resident Evil 5. But of course, Valve pulls a lot of strings and they can get a lot to work, so that is a good thing. But for now, there are certain games that just do not work, or they're not easy to access on the Steam Deck. But I found it kind of humorous that they stopped using their Steam Deck already. I thought it was going to take like a year, similar to me. But there have been a lot of situations where I wanted to quit the Steam Deck, just like that one scene from that one movie. But I didn't do it because I didn't have any other handheld that I could go to. I sold my Nintendo Switch for the Steam Deck, so I kind of forced myself into making the Steam Deck my primary driver. But now the ROG Ally is my primary driver, and do I regret that? Well, there's like 2% regret, because for some reason there's certain titles like No More Heroes, Killer 7, and other Suda51 games that just show some kind of blue filter and it looks all digitized, and that's specifically on the ROG Ally, and the game is pretty much just unplayable because of this graphical glitch. So yeah, I'm going through that, but I can easily just emulate the titles because they do look like Nintendo Switch titles and they're not really upgraded when you're playing them on the PC version. No More Heroes 3 so far still plays very well, but It is a huge deal, and especially if you look at my profile picture, that Suda51 games are not working on the freaking ROG Ally. It's almost directed to me. It makes no sense. There is some kind of quiet war going on between Valve and Microsoft. There's definitely a lot of compatibility issues that are happening specifically for Steam games. With every other title, if I get a game third party but it was on Epic Game Store, it works perfectly okay. But now I'm starting to see that certain Steam games are not working properly on the ROG Ally, and sometimes it's the ROG Ally specifically. And I don't see this as just a normal compatibility issue with the ROG Ally handheld at all. I see this as something that's targeting this handheld. And so that means that it's an actual threat to the Steam Deck. So that makes me a little happy because it means that the ROG Ally is doing well. But going back on the Steam Deck, it is true that a lot of things you do on the Steam Deck is very complicated. Knowing which Proton to use, just telling my family member which Proton to use was so much information for them. They couldn't handle it. Sure, you need to get used to it here and there. The same thing with Windows. When they were building their $3,000 Windows PC, I had to stay on the phone with them for 5 hours trying to find out exactly how to fix what and how to set up everything. And of course, with SteamOS, it's already set up for you. So all I need to do is give them a conversation exactly how to fix it. But that's just what I'm talking about. Going into an entirely new PC experience like the Steam Deck. Some people are just not going to want to do that. So yeah, playing League of Legends is a little complicated on the Steam Deck. And it's a pretty dominant title. If you can't play that on the Steam Deck, and if it isn't as easily accessible as the other titles that are verified, then most likely that person's going to see it as not compatible with the Steam Deck. But it is compatible in certain ways. I hear there are some launching issues. I hear it is difficult to get it to work. You need certain Protons to get it to work. But you can eventually get League of Legends to work on the Steam Deck. I know this. But telling somebody else that it is possible when they see no feasible way through all of the options they have in the basic gaming mode, they'll find it hard to believe. But this person did go to desktop mode and they do know how to use desktop mode. So it wasn't a completely foreign thing for me to tell them that they had to get a launcher from the Discovery Store and then they needed to set the Proton to a specific Proton to play League of Legends after they make a shortcut of that Epic Store title, or just playing it straight from Epic Store. I haven't played League of Legends on the Steam Deck, so there are certain titles I have no clue about and how to get them to work on the Steam Deck. So I was a little flabbergasted when they told me there were specific titles they wanted to play that just did not work. God forbid Apex Legends wasn't on Steam because they're playing that for a while and it kept them busy. But after Christmas, there was a lot of issues with the Steam Deck and this newfound user's experience, even though I set up everything for them, or most things for them, because apparently I didn't set up the other launchers, which I should have. I just didn't think that they would go to different launchers. But there are certain titles that just do not work on the Steam Deck regardless. That is a bit hard to explain, and the second I explain it to that person that has the Steam Deck for the first time, it's going to turn them off for sure. They're not going to want to play the Steam Deck for a while. They're probably going to go straight to their desktop computer or even their console because Steam Deck and Linux just can't play certain titles, and that is the reality. And it is going to take a long time to get every single game to work properly. Like there was a new announcement that Proton Experimental is working a little better and can get certain games to not crash. And one of those games was a verified title for a long time, and that game is Bayonetta 1. Now, I didn't beat Bayonetta 1 on the Steam Deck, so I didn't know that there was crashing issues. But if that game was verified for that long and was still having a lot of issues with Proton, that would have been a huge deal for me because I love Bayonetta. That game is like one of my favorite action titles. I started playing about half of it on the Steam Deck, but I had no clue that there was actual crashing issues. For some reason, I wasn't going back to it. And I think it was because there were crashing issues and I just erased that from my memory. It's sort of hard to accept that certain games don't work on the Steam Deck after a certain amount of time. You sort of just look at the game and think, I just don't feel like playing it right now. But it's actually because it doesn't work properly on the Steam Deck. And it's verified, and you just can't accept that Valve has lied to you. Now, Valve has lied about a ton of titles. They just call it verified to make the developer feel better and to possibly make developers and gamers alike buy that title and buy the Steam Deck. It's easy to just lie and then fix the situation later. They're doing what all developers do and just come up with half-assed software and then just fix it during the course of time because they know that a lot of people have ADHD and they're probably just going going to go to another game before they finish that one anyway. They're using people's disabilities against them, and that's not cool. Just finish the game and don't take advantage of people. But Valve has done that numerous times, even with older titles like Bayonetta, and that's just depressing to me. I really thought that Valve has changed and that a lot of their verified titles just work. But it seems like a lot of people just don't finish their games on Steam Deck. They play it for 2 minutes and say, this works so amazingly. Man, this works a lot better than it does in the ROG Ally. You know how many times a game has crashed on me on the ROG Ally? Like once. Meanwhile, on Steam Deck, because the SteamOS software is new, games have crashed on me over 100 times, and I've bared it. I've been through the shitter with the Steam Deck over and over again. This is someone who is actually abused from a device because I used it as my daily driver, my primary handheld. Don't use the Steam Deck as your primary handheld. Use it as a fallback. Have a Windows handheld, and then if it doesn't play it, go to Steam Deck and see if that plays it. But most likely, Windows handhelds will play the games a lot better and a lot more natural than the Steam Deck does day 1 to month 2, simply because of compatibility. And obviously now, there are Windows handhelds that are a lot more powerful than the Steam Deck, so you got to think about that too. We have the MSI Claw coming.
Oh yeah, it's becoming a claw! Ah!
But I'm not going to make a video about that because I don't know exactly what they lied about. I know there are certain features that people are being a little careful about. There are certain details that don't make sense with the MSI Claw, but the same went for the ROG Ally. It's mainly because MSI is still working on the handheld and they're not very sure if certain features are going to be included or what certain features are going to do yet. But there are features that are going to be there, like the AI machine, which is going to be awesome. But you have all of these other options that are a lot more powerful than the Steam Deck and with 100% better compatibility with video games. So there's that. Giving away my Steam Deck has caused a little bit of confusion, and the person eventually did stop playing it like I predicted in another video. There are just certain games that don't work on the Steam Deck that is just hard to accept, so you just go to another platform. But yeah, if there are any more updates on this situation, I'll let you guys know. But for now, do I recommend just giving your Steam Deck to someone who isn't a hardcore PC enthusiast? Not really. Most likely that person's not going to want to do all of these extra steps to get their certain special game to work. And that's going to be a deal breaker. It was a deal breaker for me, the fact that Steam Deck didn't play a lot of my favorite titles. At the time, honestly, I wish there was another handheld that would play them. But now there is. It's just hard to justify the Steam Deck when there are other mainstream handhelds out there that can play so much more than the handheld. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video and let me know what you think about the Steam Deck versus all of these other handhelds. And if you had an extra Steam Deck, would you give it away to someone? And do you think they would have just as easy a time with it that you had? But yeah, see you guys in the next one. Later.